held responsible for any undesirable results of misuse. Do not use your launch if there are exposed electronic elements, you are in the shower, bathtub, swimming pool, sauna, steam room, etc. The launch is not waterproof. It is excessively hot to touch.
The following episode of Butt Plugin with QDOT was brought to you via donations from godless perverts like you. Hi, and welcome to Butt Plugin with QDOT, a new show about butt plugs, the internet, and stupid shit that happens when you bang the two together. Now, you may be thinking, hey QDOT, what qualifies you to talk about sex and technology on a source of truth like the internet? Well, I've been running the blog at metafetish.com since 2004. In that time, I've covered sex and technology, teledildonics, sex robots, and a ton of other topics. As a blogger with no editorial obstacles in front of me whatsoever, I've now become an expert in sex and technology through being prolific and stubborn. Unfortunately, no one really reads blogs anymore, so I've decided to take my knowledge to video, where I can wave sex toys, as well as making fast movements and loud noises to make sure that I keep interest. In episodes to come, you can expect things like unboxing of toys, discussion of marketing strategies behind sex and technology, hardware teardowns, and overviews of things like movie and game synchronization, as well as experiments in user interfaces for sex toys. Now, in this episode, we'll be covering the Fleshlight launch. This is Kiiroo and Fleshlight's new entry into the world of cock robotics. And, much like the Nintendo Switch, both of them came out last month, both of them are already sold out, and we don't know when they're going to get more of either. However, unlike the Nintendo Switch, you're supposed to put your junk in this one. Now, we'll be going over what comes with the Fleshlight launch, how the hardware works, how the Bluetooth protocol works, and then finally doing a full teardown of the hardware so you can see what's going on inside this thing. Let's get started. Now, usually when you're doing an unboxing, you leave the product in the box to take out while you're making the video. But when your mailman shows up and it's all, hey, I've got your new cock robot, like hell you're gonna wait to film that shit, right? So instead, we've got a flattened box. So anyways, here we go, the Fleshlight launch. Now, this isn't Fleshlight's first foray into computer-controlled sex toys, but it's most likely their biggest, both literally and figuratively. In the past, Fleshlight's been part of things like the interactive Fleshlight, which was an air sensor that came out in like 2003 attached to the end of the Fleshlight. Didn't work all that well. And the V-Stroker, a cap for the Fleshlight that contains an accelerometer that would relay movements. We'll be covering these products in later episodes, but for now, know that the main difference between those and this is that those require you to manipulate the toy manually. The Fleshlight launch, however, is basically a replacement for your arm. This isn't the first toy ever to do that sort of motion, as there have been like fucking machines with Fleshlight attachments and products like the Toys in Motion Priceless. However, this is the first time Fleshlight has sold something that does it. Before this, the most technical Fleshlight got was the Vibro model, which just had a vibrator in it. And this also isn't the first time Fleshlight's worked with Kiiroo. So you can actually see Kiiroo Fleshlight. Fleshlight provided the inserts for the Kiiroo Onyx toy, which is this thing right here. It's a black tube. They made these little replaceable inserts that actually go inside the tube. Once again, we'll cover that in a later episode. But with the launch, the partnership continues similarly, because Kiiroo is providing the hardware and the online services once again, and Fleshlight is providing the insert. Now here we can see how they convey how the toy is used. Put the Fleshlight in the launch, it moves it back and forth for you. But here's the tricky part. Fleshlight masturbator not included. I've noticed more toys these days requiring inserts that they don't come with. The Vors A10 Cyclone has the same problem. If you order your toy but you don't have the insert, well, you've got a fuck tube with nothing to fuck unless you're really into hard plastic. Obviously, having the inserts is kind of a recurring revenue deal and a value add, but it's still kind of surprising that they don't ship with something, as it seems like an incomplete product, especially in a context like this where once you get it, you're gonna want to use it. Now, next up, the specifications part of the box. First off, body safe. Assuming you trust the safety ideas of someone who thinks your heart is in your pelvis. Bluetooth because wires are primitive. Rechargeable via USB. Warranty, though God help the poor shipping department that handles the RMAs for this thing. 180 automated strokes per minute as shown by arrows surrounding the profile of a flathead bolt. Software updates via rotating CDs. Cockrobots are not exempt from skeuomorphism. Password protected. I have no idea what this one means. I've never actually run into any sort of password requirement on the hardware itself. It doesn't even use secure BLE bonding. I guess it's possibly referring to the services to control it, but yeah, I'm not real sure. And finally, FeelMe compatible. FeelMe.com is a new website that Kiru have set up to control the launch as well as other products from manufacturers like Oh My Bod and Lovins and I Am Toy and at least one other. It's basically aiming to be a one-stop shop for internet butt plug content and control. The Kinect side of the box gives you some idea of what the toy can be used with. First off is Lover, which since Kiru is part of the 268 patent licensing group, they can do without getting sued. Same with Webcam for cam models. It'll also work with movie synchronization and virtual reality. All of these options will be hosted through FeelMe.com since that's pretty much the only place that anything for the launch is. So here's what comes inside the box other than the toy itself. You've got your USB charging cable, you've got some lube, you've got a catalog of Fleshlight products as well as instructions on how to maintain a Fleshlight. You've got your quick start guide, the full manual, and this authenticity card, which is basically just a little cardboard warranty card. Now, the Quick Start Guide is interesting in that it uses the electrical LED symbol to show where and what color lights on the device are. It even has the different pin links for anode and cathode. Kind of an interesting choice for a sex toy manual. Now, before the launch came out, there was a lot of talk about how large it was. Now that I've got one, though, I realize that's not actually the case. We can kind of compare it with some similar toys to see what the difference really is or isn't. Here is the Vors A10 Cyclone. You'd see the Cyclone is slightly thinner, but just as long. And here's the Real Touch, which really ends up being about the same size. So all of these toys that have really nice actuation mechanisms that users usually enjoy end up being a little bit larger than usual. Now, comparing to other toys that weren't so popular or as well liked, like the Kiru Onyx or the Lovins Max, you can see these toys are much smaller, but they also just didn't work as well. So it seems that with toys of this type, you kind of need a larger footprint in order to get done what you want to. Now, in terms of how to charge this thing, the charging happens via a USB mini port on the back of the toy. Full charge takes about 6 to 8 hours, so if it's out of power when you're ready to go, you're just hoping you're pretty patient. Now, the toy's pretty useless without a flashlight in it, so let's get one in there. Now, as you can see, the fastening mechanism resembles the lip of the fleshlight body. So, look in here. There's that right there. And there's that lid. So, the same sort of slots. The fleshlight body just screws into this part. Now, once that's done, the toy is held in and can be moved by the motor. Now, the toy can be pulled out fairly easily. That's usually not a problem, as there usually isn't any force on the case that would cause that to happen. It tends to stay fairly well seated while it's moving. Now, here's where that warning on the box comes into play. What is a standard size fleshlight anyways? So I've got 3 fleshlights here, and first, we've already got this gold one in. This is the Stamina Training Unit. This is Fleshlight's most popular style. It seems to actually work okay. It holds in pretty well. It's not the snuggest fit in the world, I can just do that, but it works. It's probably not going to come out while you're using it. Next up, there's the Fleshlight Ice Jack. This one's pretty popular because it's their only clear model. As you can see, though, it ends up being a little large, so you have to kind of tilt it in. You can still jam it in there and have it basically hold. It's probably not the way Fleshlight recommend you to use the toy, but if it's all you got, you don't want to buy another Fleshlight, it'll do. Finally, there is this. This is a vintage Fleshlight case, probably from the early 2000s or so. It falls right through. I would expect the Flight or the Turbo or some of the other new cases that are kind of small to have the same issue. So, what could we do to fix that issue? Well, 3D printing is a thing these days, so why not just 3D print some shims to make any toy fit in here? Doesn't have to be a Fleshlight, it could be a Tenga Flip Zero or another Onahole or something like that. And we're looking at doing that right now. If you keep an eye on metafetish.com, once we get our models created and tested, we'll be posting them on Thingiverse and Shapeways, and possibly making a new mini episode of this about it. The on-device usage interface is made up of 8 buttons. There's the power button, the mode button, and 3 touch buttons on each side of the device. To turn the power on, just hit the button. This also causes the motor to move to the home position. Now, when the device is first turned on, it's in Bluetooth mode, which is shown by this blinking blue light that is also a button. This will allow the user to connect to the device via another Bluetooth device, like a phone or a computer. The light will go solid on a successful Bluetooth connection. Now, if the mode button is touched for a few seconds, it'll turn off, putting the toy in manual mode. In this mode, the buttons on the side can be used to change thrust depth and speed. Hitting the power button causes the toy movement to start and stop. Okay, to take a moment here for critique. The buttons on the side are absolutely awful. There's no way to identify where they are to touch or whether they're even being pressed or whatnot, as you could probably tell from me trying to control it there. You just kind of have to slide your fingers over them and hope you're hitting the right thing. Not only that, as we'll see in the teardown, the way the sensor pads are aligned means that it's very easy to hit 2 buttons at once without knowing it. While I understand that the buttons are made like this in order to alleviate mechanical failure, it just kind of makes them completely unusable, especially in situations that the machine is supposed to be used in. If this thing was sold with the feature of being able to synchronize with on-screen porn, meaning you aren't going to want to look at the device to figure out where to press it if you need to use the buttons, and even if you're looking at it, you can't tell when you're hitting anything, that's going to become a very frustrating situation for normal usage. So if you're developing for this, I highly recommend just stay away from these buttons. Now, while I said that this wouldn't be a sex toy review video, I figured I would at least talk about one of the features you might actually need to use this toy. Not every penis is going to fit in this correctly, assuming you want to use it with your penis. The problem is there's going to be some people that are too short for the full width of the stroke. So let's get an idea of how long you need to be for this to be all the way out. Okay, so you're probably going to want to be at least 4 inches long. I believe the average is somewhere around 5.5. So, and that was from this to the beginning of the insert of the fleshlight. However, if you're just a little bit longer than that, but not too much, you could actually slip out of this, and this will push itself right back on you. That doesn't sound like very much fun. Now, one of the interesting features that I think could be implemented for this, I haven't seen it yet, but it could be pretty easily done, is to actually set a thrust limiter in either the software or the firmware. What this would allow you to do is say, this is as far as I want the launch to go. So instead of going from 0 to 100, maybe it'd go from 0 to 80 or something like that. Now it would treat this range as 0 to 100, so all of the videos would work with it in the amount of movement you would expect, but it would actually allow the launch to support more body types and more sizes than it does by just having the full length all the time. So let's check out the Bluetooth features of this toy. First off, I'll show you the normal usage using Kiru's Fuel Connect app. You start up the app, and this is on a Nexus 7 tablet running Android 6.0.1. It automatically connects to the device, as can be seen by the blue light. And then you'll go to the FeelMe website. Now, as I don't really want to get kicked off of YouTube in my first video, I've already got some porn queued up here. It's rather rowdy.